Are you always trying to get better in your business, looking for tiny tweaks and changes that you can make to improve conversion rates or get more clicks through to the next thing on your site? Well, then, if you are, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Empowered Podcast, episode number 96. Thanks for tuning into this episode. I'm your host, Ellory Wells. And before we dive into the episode, I wanted to mention just a couple things. Last week, in episode number 95, you can find that by going to empoweredpodcast.com/95. I told you that I wanted to make some changes to the show. I wanted to help in different ways and maybe apply more practical things to the show. I made a pivot a year or so ago after Podcast Movement 2014. Of course, after going to Podcast Movement 2015 just a few weeks ago, I wanted to make even more changes because my whole thing, everything that I do is to help you not have to go back to a job that you don't like or go back and work for a boss that doesn't like you or whatever it is. I want to help you develop your exit strategy and help you make that transition from being where you feel like you may have to be to living a life where you want to be. And that's what I want to do. And just to give you a little bit of background, here's something that I am doing, and you might want to consider doing this as you begin to grow your business and platform and blog, is I want to do a short video for the next 100 people who sign up on my website for a tool, for a resource, one of my PDF downloads, whatever it is. I want to shoot a video, and I have been doing that. I've done maybe about 25 to 30 videos, and I want to make that connection. So if you do sign up, and I would encourage you to do so because I don't sell your email addresses, I don't do anything crazy with them, I keep them all to myself. I will never give them away or sell them, but I would love for you to join the community in that way, and I will send you a personal video. And if you have received a personal video from me, again, thank you for trusting me with your email address. Reply back to that email and let me know what you thought and what you're working on. I'd love to connect with you in that way. But today's episode is from my membership site. As you know, or may not know, every month I do an experts call with someone who is a business owner working on their business. They are a few steps ahead. They are generating revenue, they have clients, they're making money, and I want to interview them and figure out how they are doing that. So I go to my members and I ask them to ask questions. I tell them who the member is, how they might be able to learn from them, and ask them to submit questions. So what we've done in this episode is taken that interview, condensed it down from the full thing. So to get access to the full thing and be able to interact with the next expert, you have to be a member. But we go in and we talk with Alex Harris about conversion rate optimization, web design that works, whether or not you should be a generalist or a specialist when it comes to your business. We ask, is SEO dead? Should you focus on canned email responses and autoresponders or one-on-one things? We look at different email campaigns. There are some things that get technical, so you can replay this at your leisure, or you can go to empoweredpodcast.com/96 and you'll get all of the show notes. But I want you to enjoy this episode. I know I got so much positive feedback from the members that you will find a ton of value in this as well. So with that, I'll go right into the episode. Stick around afterward, and I've got some more information for you. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast. This is another video call for the Experts Calls program inside of the membership site. And every month, we do a new call with a new expert, give members the chance to ask questions that will help them with their business, help them grow, make the changes that they need, different tools to help them scale. And that's what we're here to do today. And today's guest is my friend and optimization expert, Alex Harris. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. I used to be a search expert, but now I mostly do conversion stuff.
There you go, and that's perfect because let's dive right in. Is SEO dead? I was having a conversation about that just today. Is SEO dead? Is driving traffic a better strategy?
Well, no, SEO is definitely not dead. It's just different. I tell you, I built my business on SEO. Let me back up. I started doing web design and internet marketing in the year 2000. I started at a very popular diet and fitness website, and I realized that not many people were doing landing pages and conversion-focused website design, and we can get into all of that. But I started to market myself as a landing page designer doing SEO.
Okay.
And I did a little bit of, back in the day, it would be called like black hat these days, but it was like kind of like gray hat. But I'm a web designer. So at the bottom of every one of my landing pages and on my websites, I would put a link back to my website. Pretty normal stuff, powered by or created by Alex Harris or ECommerce website design.
Is that not a good idea anymore?
No, it's not a good idea. You only want quality backlinks these days. Okay. It's better quality over quantity. So I had thousands of backlinks. Every page of all my websites were all back, going directly to mine. So I was number one for landing page design and landing page designer for like 5 years.
Nice.
So I built my business that way. And, and then in 2011, Google algorithm Panda came out and it crushed my search engine rankings. I basically went from like hundreds of leads a week to like maybe like 1 or 2 a month. Wow. So it was a completely game changer. So SEO is certainly not dead today. It's just the quality of content has to be outdo the quantity. Google really, what they care about the most is the user experience. Mm-hmm. So you have to really think about the user in mind. That's why mobile get-in was like such a big deal, because they care about the user experience. They want people to use their website. It comes down to usability and user experience. So the new version of SEO is quality content that gets shared and read and used. So if you want to do SEO, you have to create great content, get it to be worthwhile of being shared, and then also your pages have to have they have to look good and they actually have to function good.
Which is that mobile part that was what, April of 2015, just a few months ago.
Yeah. It was even the bounce rate. So if people go to your web pages and they immediately leave, that actually hurts your SEO.
Screw you, Google. They're making everything harder. But
they want people to move forward. They want to improve the quality of things. And like right now, you can produce content and blog posts every single day. That's great, but you want to make sure that they're good enough to be shared and click through. So you can do some specific tricks on your blog posts, like at the top, maybe on the sidebar or at the top above the fold, you have links to like your best performing articles. So people want to go to other pages on your website. Like the goal should be for them to arrive at like your blog post and then click on another web page within the same domain. That will reduce your bounce rate and it actually improves the quality of your content. And it's showing Google that people aren't going to your web pages and just leaving.
So I'm going to grab my pen and a notepad here because there's definitely things that I want to come back to, Alex. For example, some of your strategies on bounce rate, but I don't want to dive into those just yet.
I'm gonna have to break out my book to get all the tips.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So you printed that. It's not just ebook. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. Well, when you put a book out these days, it's not really that hard to do. All you have to do is create a print version of it, and then CreateSpace prints it on demand. Okay. So I can order them myself for $10 each, and the user has to pay like $27 for it. So it's a little bit pricey, but it comes out pretty good. It looks pretty good, and it's got a nice colored graphic.
And you can put that on a shelf. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That is
it looks really good.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You gonna bring any of those to Podcast Movement?
Yeah, I'll bring you one for sure. I'm gonna have a bunch of them. But what this is the new version of a business card. This is the new version of a business card that get distributed.
And by the way, for the people who are not able to see the video for
Mhm.
podcast listeners, tell us the title of your book and maybe where we can find it.
Absolutely. It's Small Business, Big Money Online. It's a proven system to optimize e-commerce websites and increase your internet profit. So you can find it on Amazon, Google Play, iTunes, iBooks, Audible as well. And actually, if you're actually listening to Ellory's podcast and you buy the book, I will give you the audio version for free. You'll have to email me and I'll have to give you a special link for it, but I will give you the audio version for free because it is pretty in-depth. I mean, you read it once or twice, you may want to go back and listen to some specific chapters. There's a lot of information in the book.
Well, I have a feeling, Alex, I haven't read it yet, but I have a feeling it's like Platform was. I've got my copy right here because I did a giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't my copy. This is the free one that I'm giving, but mine is dog-eared and underlined, and it's like a freaking textbook. And I have a feeling your book is going to be the exact same way. But let's back up. I'll put a link to all of these in the show notes. Of course, the members will have the link to all the questions that we're asking inside the site. But tell us some of your story. You mentioned you were doing landing page and SEO back in 2000, and I believe you and I have known each other probably for, that's a couple of years now, which is kind of
like
weird.
2.5 years.
And I'm pretty sure you told me it was at the platform conference. You said I was unemployed for the drive home. I think that's part of how you say it in your story. Mm-hmm. And I know there's people on the call and people who will listen to this and they want to make that transition. They want to, either they know their job is kind of teetering, it could go away, which that's pretty much everybody, mm-hmm. whether they know it or not, or they could be given the axe like I was. How was that transition? What was that drive home like? Give us the beginnings of Alex Designs.
Yeah, well, as I said, I started in the year 2000, and I really saw that, well, I always wanted to create my own business. I knew that I was eventually going to create my own business. So in 2004, I created my own LLC, and I started doing freelance web design on the side. So I would work all day at a corporate office, and then I would come home and I would work to the middle of the night because there was a lot of opportunity out there. But I had a great job. Like, I didn't want to quit my job. I actually loved my job. But then in like 2006, we went public and they fired the CEO. And after that, I ended up, yeah.
Even the CEO's job's not secure. That's great to know.
No, once you go public, it's a completely different story.
It's all about the board.
Yeah, the board and everything. And, that's a whole story in itself. But after they fired the CEO, basically, they ended up the board kept on trying to hire different CEOs. So they would hire one. I'd have to train the CEO on what we did and how we did it. And everyone would basically make my job ridiculously hard. And they basically, after they fired the original CEO, they wanted to change everything, change the design, change the technology of the website. And that was really the killer of the company. As soon as we changed the technology and some of the design, we changed from an original coding platform called Cold Fusion, we moved it to Java. And because there were so many changes that were happening, it basically killed all the sales. And once you go to that new platform, we couldn't back out of that. So the board was pissed. So they would fire the CEO, and a new CEO would come in, and they would make my job harder. And then we went into the recession in 2007, 2008, and they gave us more responsibility, reduced our pay, and every day they wanted to fire me. And I knew my job was on the line every single day, and that was 2008. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to only focus on my freelance business and, give as much as I can during the day, but really focus on my freelance business. And so I went through that whole entire process and I milked it for as long as I possibly could. I saved as much money as I could because I knew when I left there that I was going to have the office that I want. I was going to buy a house. I was going to pay off my truck. I was going to buy my wife the ring she wanted. I was going to save for my wedding. Basically, put all that money away in savings. And finally, the day came in 2011 in January, and they basically killed the company. They finally fired everybody. I was literally like one of the first people to get there and one of the last people to really leave. And I was unemployed for 30 minutes, the distance of my drive home. As soon as I was fired, I was like, okay, I'm unemployed, went home, started working immediately. And, I was working so much already that I was actually pretty burnt out. And if you remember me talking at the beginning, I had all these great search engine rankings in 2011, and that was the same year that I got fired. So as soon as I became an entrepreneur, I all of a sudden had to restart my business from scratch. And my background's in art and design. I don't have any business experience. I've never really been an entrepreneur before. I never went to marketing school. I learned everything on the job. So I was like, I don't even know where to start. So I basically had to retrain my entire mind of how to be an entrepreneur, and then to kind of get through those first couple of years. And now, now I've been doing it now for 4.5 years. And, it really comes down to the relationships that you build to be able to get the kind of work that you want. So investing in yourself from the beginning. If you're in corporate today, I would recommend you save as much money as you possibly can. Do as much side hustle as you possibly can. Try to save as much money. Build up your clientele. Go to conferences. Meet as many people as you can. Put your own meetups together. Go to meetup.com. Create your own meetup. Because it's going to come down to the relationships in the long run. When I really was at a low point and I didn't know where to turn, I reached out to a lot of those relationships, and I was really able to get work. And there's something weird that happens with me whenever I'm in this roller coaster of this entrepreneurial path that we go on. I all of a sudden get a great client. It's weird to me. You know how people say, when you're ready, the teacher will appear?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it was when I'm at my lowest point, the right client kind of shows up. So if you show up and you're reliable and you kind of create the path of success for yourself, then you could see as much opportunity as you really want.
So your strategy and mine too, you had more intention, and you had more of a goal with it than I did. I was just kind of thrown into this. You kind of were too, but you had the longer runway. Do you think that that's a good way to do that? Try to give yourself a long runway, make it a gradual approach. I see so many entrepreneurs or famous people that we would all know of. I just kind of quit my job and jumped in with both feet. But I wouldn't recommend that. And tons of people say that. What are your thoughts? Build the runway.
Yeah, well, for me, I was scared. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was making a ton of money. I was making 6 figures in corporate, and I had a great freelance business. So I was making basically double the salary that I was doing. So I didn't want to lose any of that. I was super scared to lose it. And I really loved my job. I really wanted to see the business succeed. So I would recommend, you have to do what's in your gut. But for me, it wasn't the right time to leave corporate yet. I even asked a lot of people during the recession and going through some of those hard times and seeing everybody get fired. I really wanted to create a startup at that time, and I got a lot of advice from people. I was going to conferences. I was able to meet Gary Vaynerchuk and really hang out with him. And I got a lot of advice directly from Gary. And I said, should I take the money I've kind of saved and invest in a startup? And, he is very intuitive about people. And he kind of read me. He's like, no, you should stay there, milk it as long as you possibly can, because you'll have a better lifestyle when you do leave. Because I never did the lean process before. I never worked on a startup or had, business really skills at all. So, as I said, my background's in art. Both of my brothers are accountants, so they kind of got the math genes, and I got the creative genes. But for me, I was better off in the situation I was in, and you have to kind of figure that out for yourself. If you have a family, kids or whatever, it makes a huge difference. So you have to really figure out what's right for yourself. Jumping right into it, and trying to figure it out on the way down, I don't know if that's the best strategy for everybody. But, if you have that mentality and you got the hustle that you're going to work all night no matter what to make it a success, jump off that ledge.
I think the way that if you were wanting to make the transition shorter, one of my coaching clients, he's in the process of making the transition, and you gotta, to me anyway, you gotta cut the vacations, you gotta cut the free time, and if you're going to jump in with both feet, you got to jump in up to your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
that you have to eat, sleep, and breathe this kind of stuff, at least in the beginning. Which brings me to another one of my questions, Alex. How did you get your first client? I'm sure that was way before 2011, but how
Mm-hmm.
did you get your first client?
I did work for free. So when I first started doing web design, like, it was new. Not many people had websites, and I didn't have enough experience. Like, I was looking for opportunity, and I'd ask basically everybody who I knew had a business. I was like, I'll do a free website for you just so I can have a testimonial, just so I have a case study. Because if you're a consultant, if you do internet marketing, what do people want to know? They want to know that you have a proven track record. They want to know that you produce results. And for me, I didn't have a portfolio yet. I was doing art and things like that, and people weren't going to buy, pictures of graffiti and things like that, So, I needed to put out some professional stuff. And I told people, like, this is never going to happen again. I'm going to do some work for you for free now. If you come back to me in a year, I probably won't be able to do for you. And that's what happened. People came back to me later and they said, oh, can you still help me? I'm like, no, I can't anymore. I have to charge you. And I really don't do work for friends anymore. It's all business these days. So at the very start, when I got my first gig, I actually did a lot of work for free. And a lot of those people that I did work for free for at the time, they still refer me work to this day.
So I've got a couple people in the membership that have mentioned, we're all trying to build businesses here, and they seem somewhat hesitant to do the free work, not necessarily do the work, but think maybe it damages credibility or some of those things. What would you take to the person who's sort of hesitant to do the free work?
Well, you don't want to do free work for anybody. Like, go big. Like, try to do work for free for, like, Michael Hyatt, for, like, the platform. Go big, because if you shoot for the moon, you're going to land on the stars. If you can create, like, whatever, a product for Michael Hyatt or something like that and show that you're reliable, it's going to really make a big difference if he actually uses it. Sometimes a lot of the free work I created, I was creating it for myself, just for my portfolio. A lot of it never even saw the light of day. But it was
I've done that too.
So you're really just building up like case studies for yourself. And yeah, you're not going to always be able to get paid for your work, or the free work's not going to make sense, but you have to kind of really figure out what's right for you. Maybe you don't even do necessarily free work. Maybe it's just advising, or giving people some advice. Put yourself on Elance or Odesk or Upwork or whatever it's called these days, and make your dollar amount ridiculously cheap, and it could be just advice. It could be just, if you're a creative, it could be just creating banner ads or something really, really simple, social media ads. You can also use something like Clarity.fm. It's a great service. You put yourself on Clarity.fm and you sell your advice. I've done over 80 calls for people, and you can get people, you can give advice to people. You advise them on whatever your specialty is, and then you want to make sure that they give you a review or a testimonial in return. So there's ways to make it smart so you can do free work in the right way.
I always compared it to like doing an internship. So many of my friends in college, Baylor had a 5-year accounting thing. You mentioned your brothers were accounting, and it was kind of rolled into the master's program, the bachelor's program into 5 years. But the last year, or at least the last semester or something, they were all off in other cities working for free for Ernst & Young, PwC, and all these other things. Mm-hmm. Actually, they might have been getting paid, but if it wasn't very much. And so I compare this work for free thing when you're talking about investing in your business, investing in yourself. I just compare that to kind of an unpaid internship where you got to go in, you got to learn the ropes. And you're right, you don't have to do it for free. They did it for a semester, some of them a year, depending on what it was. And if you have the corporate job to still pay the bills, or a spouse that can support you or something, that's when it's time to put in that kind of free work. But any of this free stuff, because I know some people are like, well, I don't want to work for free. And I didn't either. I'm sure it wasn't high on your priority priority list, but you learn stuff. I have done stuff that didn't go anywhere. Like you mentioned, you had portfolio items that never saw the light of the day. But the learning process that you go through is almost like a payment that you'll be able to cash a year, 18 months down the road.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great way to get started. Let me pull up one of the questions we got here. Jason, he gave us a little paragraph here. Jason says, I'm starting, and he has two questions. I'm starting a local marketing business, and I want to help local businesses build funnels, driving leads and sales. Mm-hmm. So I think most of his question, Alex, is about how he sets up the logistics of stuff. Does the Facebook accounts and whatever, do the clients create a login for him on their system and set them up as an admin or an editor or something, or does he create those and just kind of host everything on one of his accounts?
Well, it's going to work differently in different ways, but you probably want or you want to act as the client, or have the client initially start the Facebook pages and then add you as an admin.
Okay.
And the same thing with Google Analytics too. You never want to start with your own personal accounts, because it's going to be really hard to maybe transfer that stuff later. So you want the client to actually maybe start the original accounts, or even ask them to maybe log in with their Facebook account so that you can do it for them. You can even do it on like GoToMeeting, and while you're on the GoToMeeting, do it for them and show them how to do it. But you probably want to start by having them actually create the accounts and then adding you as an admin. I have access to, like 25 different clients in Facebook, probably 75 different people in Google Analytics. And I make sure that the clients start first and then add me.
Is there a reason to do it that way, or?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I have an old client that I haven't worked on 7 or 8 years. I created their stuff in Google Analytics, and I can't ever get rid of that client. I'm like, they're in my account. Like, I can't transfer them to something else because I created their original account. So you probably want the client to actually start with their Gmail or wherever they're doing first. So that way they're adding you as access. Because you don't want to ever own that account. You want the owner to be the client for sure. And there's probably easy ways for you to help them get that set up. And then moving into local, creating funnels for local clients. Let's say you're using lead pages. You want the client to be the person who's the main account holder. So you want them to purchase for it, unless you're going to be purchasing it for them. That's a completely different story. But you want them to be billed for it. Like, you don't want to pay for their services if they fire you. You don't want it on your credit card. So you want them to buy the account and then send you the login information. So if you can create systems for a lot of this stuff, it'll really help you out. So what I do is I have in my Gmail, I have canned responses for all of the things I need. Like when I first start a client and I know that they're going to I need access to their Google Analytics, a Facebook account, maybe lead pages, I have an email that's already canned in there that kind of explains all that. Once I ask them for something, I never have to create that email again. It's all in canned responses. If you don't know what canned responses is, just Google it. It's in Gmail Labs. It'll make your life so much easier.
Because if you like a keystroke or something and it fills it in.
Yeah, it's their automatic drafts in Gmail. Okay. So if you go into Labs, it's a section of Gmail. You can add all these extra stuff to Gmail. It's called canned responses. So someone comes to me and they want a landing page. A lead comes in. All I have to do is go into Gmail, click on canned responses, default lead landing page client. It fills it out. I send them an email. I don't even have to think about it. So they're already in place. So you're going to see that a lot of the same people are going to ask you a lot of the same questions. Yeah. And if you can kind of create systems for that. So let's get back to local funnels. This is really good. What you want to do is you want to specialize in a business vertical. Let's say that you are going to go after service-based businesses. Let's say someone who, companies that do AC, like, in AC installs. So you want to specialize in that. You want to have a section on your website that says you are the specialist in AC services, local marketing. So people know that you have experience in it. That way, because if you've ever done anything with like the construction industry or attorneys, they only like to work with people who have experience in those business verticals. So that then you can take it a completely step further. You can start to create like lead magnets specifically for those business verticals, and whatever. Create a PDF, the top 10 tips for your AC company to make more money in local search. They go to a particular landing page for AC company local SEO, for lack of better words, and they opt in for that PDF. That way it's directly related to that individual company, and that now you're gathering that lead to potentially do business with them.
Now, is it okay if you do that, like for the air conditioning companies, and you also do the same thing? And I wouldn't advocate anybody be dishonest or shady or anything, but can you say I'm the expert? Because let me back up. I don't want anybody to be honest, but dishonest. I want everybody to be honest. But most of these principles, I'd say from what I've seen, and you're the expert here, of course, Alex, but 85% of the stuff is somewhat universal. You tweak the details. You make the chocolate cake with white icing, or you have strawberry icing, but it's still the chocolate cake underneath. Mm-hmm. Could we do the same thing for AC companies, as well as for lawn care companies, as well as for, why can't I think of another tree trimming or something?
Yeah.
Is that a good strategy? Tweak the language a little bit.
I would try to become an expert in one business vertical and try to get one client. If you think you can get clients that way, make it work. But I wouldn't switch around and just create a whole bunch of business verticals, because you're probably going to waste a bunch of time. If you spread yourself too thin, it's not going to work. Mm-hmm. There's so much work in AC. It's ridiculous. There's no reason why you couldn't become the specialist in AC altogether. So if you can go in, I would go all in as much as possible in one business vertical, really get that to work, and then I would potentially create a completely separate site for lawn services.
Okay.
I wouldn't probably mix the two together in the actual same site.
Okay, here's a follow-up question. How do you know there are some businesses that will lend themselves better to internet marketing, or the stuff that we're talking about here? At what point do you say, let's say you did go all in on AC and you feel like you don't enjoy it, they're not open to it, you've talked to a handful of them and they're just not getting it, they're not seeing it. At what point do you say, okay, maybe I need to go after the lawn care guys instead?
Well, I would say you'd want to obviously know about AC first. You have to have maybe some type of passion for it. Maybe like you have some family members who are in the field, or you have a family business that's kind of related to it. So I think you have to be kind of connected to it, because people, even you're pitching people, you're going to be kind of telling stories. If I went and I told people, oh, I do AC stuff, they'll be like, why? But if I went to
like being hot.
Yeah, but if I went to my friends and one of my friends who doesn't have an AC company, and they say, "Oh, my family's been in the business for a while. We know the AC business better than anybody else." It kind of comes down to that. You have to tell people, when you're pitching people, you have to tell stories about that relates to them.
Great
because
point.
when you're consulting, people are listening to you, but they're thinking about themselves. So you want to make sure that you're talking to them kind of like in their own words. So, you want to make sure that you're passionate about it. So there has to be a direct reason of why you're kind of going after that business vertical. You really want to be the expert in that space. And then when it's kind of really working and you have a kind of model of a funnel that really works for you, you can experiment with other business verticals. I think that's a great idea, but there's no reason to kind of spread yourself too thin in a bunch of business verticals at the very beginning.
So the spaghetti on the wall, not a good tactic. One or two maybe not bad, but as long as you have that connection.
I mean, if I've learned anything over the last 4 years working for myself, is get super laser focused on your niche and then continue to niche further down, because the more specialized you are in a business vertical, the more you can charge. And you want to really be the specialist. I am the person, the go-to person for local internet marketing for AC units. AC units are expensive. You could pay $10,000 for a train unit. There's big money in it. So there's a lot of companies out there who are competing in local to get that stuff done. So I would try to, get laser focused on one business vertical and then really make that work. And then once you have enough business in there, maybe you can automate it with some, another team or some subcontractors, and then you can move into other business verticals.
And that's probably excellent advice, because if you look at it from the client side and you're the AC guy, do you want to hire the AC marketing expert, or do you want to hire the guy that is, he does air conditionings and he does lawn care and he does attorneys and he does fitness? The answer is probably no. As entrepreneurs, we want to serve everybody, but as consumers, we want the guy who really knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. And I have to remember to think of being the specialist and the expert and not try to do everything. And just from personal experience, a couple of years ago, it was about 15 months ago, when I really gained some clarity about who I wanted to work with and talk to and write to and podcast to, I had way more energy than when I was trying to reach everybody. And it's it's a weird thing, but it's a energizing and cool thing at the same time.
I tell you, you will make more money by getting on the phone with people and really understanding what people's problems are. Like, the hardest things to do are probably, the hardest things to scale are probably the most important. Like, trying any leads that come in, anybody who you talk to, you try to really get them on the phone and try to figure out patterns of language and problems that they have, because people are going to tell you basically how to sell to them. And if you can kind of figure that out, that avatar, you're going to start to understand your ideal customer better. Because once you've kind of figured that out, you can create videos for them. You can create presentations for them. You can create specific proposals that are really going to meet their needs. And you're going to see that, wow, I can provide more value to an individual one-on-one basis than trying to serve everybody.
Have you been through the foundation, Dane Maxwell? Have you been through that?
No.
He did a podcast with Pat Flynn a few years ago, and that sounds very similar to what he's talking about, and it still rings true. If you want to serve, we'll keep going with the air conditioning community, because I have been hot for a week. It's been almost miserable. At 11 o'clock today, it was 97 degrees, feels like 109. So I love the air conditioning topic.
I could put on all my video lights right now if I wanted to be nice and shiny, but it is ridiculously hot here in South Florida.
Yes, you can definitely relate. What he says and is what Dane says is what you're talking about too, Alex. Is call those people and see what parts of their business suck. And if you can meet that need and you can relieve that pain, that's a great way to make money. Helping people solve problems. I mean,
the bigger the problem, the more money you make.
That's right. And I always have to give a disclosure whenever the topic of money comes up, because you're going to get one of those people like, it's not about the money, it's about the passion, which I totally agree with, but passion doesn't pay the bills. Passion doesn't allow you to scale your business. Passion doesn't allow you to hire an employee so that you can go on a vacation with your spouse. So it's not all about money, but it's definitely an important thing. So let's get back to the local search. We said it's best to have the clients log or create the Facebook page, the Google AdWords, and those things, and then give you access. How do you manage that? How do you keep track of all of these things? You mentioned you had 25 or ish Facebook logins. You've got all these Google AdWords. Just kind of a small question about how do you keep all that straight?
Well, I mean, you really don't. You could have probably a more formal system, but for me, I basically only take about no more than 5 clients per month. So I kind of have what my priorities are for those 5 clients. I basically create a to-do list for basically each week, And, the other ones just kind of sit in those there. I'd never touch them. I still see all their notifications and stuff come in, maybe once a year, and I'll go in, I'll clean them all out, some old ones. But, it's pretty common for them to just sit in there.
Okay. What about email campaigns? Do you do email marketing for your clients as well?
Yep.
Out of curiosity, what email service do you use?
For the most part, we use a MailChimp, but we have a couple clients on ActiveCampaign, AWeber, and HubSpot, and InfusionSoft for one person, and then some other weird ones for like e-commerce called Vero, a completely different application. But in MailChimp is a great example. So all people can give you access to your MailChimp account by just as long as you have a MailChimp account, they can just add you. And then as soon as you go to log in, you can see all those different accounts in there. And then you just log into their account and they can give you whatever access they really want. So, that's pretty common these days.
Do you wish you had gotten all of your clients on a similar platform? For example, I have used MailChimp, AWeber. I switched to GetResponse, and a couple of months ago, I went all in on ActiveCampaign. And I could set up a reseller account and create those and basically resell. I pay and invoice them. If you had to do it all over again, would you try to get all of your clients on the same email service provider so it's a seamless, or at least you don't have to learn a new tool?
Really, it comes down to the client's preference. We usually try to make recommendations for them, but more than likely 9 times out of 10, they already have an email service that they're already using. So we work with a lot of small businesses, so we try not to make too much friction happening, and we want to make sure that they're spending their money in the right way. So we use basically, as we said, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, AWeber, but I don't know why AWeber hasn't moved towards more like an ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, like more of a design certain template, but we prefer not to use AWeber as much.
I went to them. I felt like they were the natural progression. So many big names, Jeff Goins, Pat Flynn, IBM guys, they all seem to be using it, but it feels old and antiquated, and I didn't have a bad experience with them, but it wasn't great. And of course, to almost answer my own question, I've never used InfusionSoft, but I often hear it called ConfusionSoft. And I'm just wondering, that's why I asked that question. That was definitely for me, because I do part of this stuff for my business. I've got the coaching and masterminds and membership, and then I work with small businesses as well. And part of my strategy is to get them on ActiveCampaign because I can share my automations. By the way, the price is pretty good, and they seem to be updating it where I've heard a lot of other people say InfusionSoft just needs a major work done, a major facelift, and AWeber might be the same way. But that's somewhat off topic. What happens when I don't know how you're currently getting customers. I want to ask you about that. But what if you approach somebody and they already have a website guy? Do you have other services that you can target with them? So how are you getting clients? And how do you overcome some objections like, I could do it, my 15-year-old cousin could do it, WordPress is easy? How do you tackle those kinds of things?
Yeah, the majority of my clients I get through referral. I've never advertised to actually get clients. I've always gotten clients either through referral or meeting people either at conferences or through speaking gigs. Okay. So, really you showing up as the expert, and then other people, maybe having testimonials that you're reliable. That's mainly the reason why, I do get clients. I do get, leads from my own website. And when I'm not as busy, my website will be a little bit more salesy. And when I am too busy, you won't even see like an offer on my website to hire me. But my leads still do come in. So, those relationships really are so important. You want to make sure that your branding is providing some type of value. When you're not in the room, what are people talking about you? If someone goes to the local chamber, or would you be the person that they're going to refer? So you want to intentionally do things that would kind of connect the dots for that. Now, I know when a potential client is going to maybe hire me, I know what they're going through if they're a right client for me. Like I can look at their website and I know that they already have Google Analytics set up. They may have tried some A/B testing. They have some landing pages. And you can look at their website and see that, oh, they have some A/B testing software on there. They're running, they have certain pixels on their website. Maybe they have HubSpot running. And you can kind of tell by what services they have if they're a right client for you. What's their domain name? Now, if they're not a right client for me and they come in, they ask me for work, I don't say, no, I can't do it for you. I say, I'm too busy right now, but I can refer to somebody else. So you want to connect people with people who may not be a right fit for you. That way, you're always a connector. You're always providing value either way. Oh, I can't do any work for you right now, but I have some great designers or some e-commerce developers who would be a perfect fit for you. Do you mind if I refer them for you? Maybe even those referrals give you a little bit of a kickback or whatever. Or that's really up to you if that works for you. But it kind of comes down to really providing value no matter what. Now, some specific practical tactics would be to make sure that when you're creating a podcast or a video, that it's intentional about the problem that you're trying to solve. So be consistent with the content that you're putting out there. That way, when people go onto Twitter or Instagram, maybe Facebook or YouTube, and they search for certain kinds of content, that your kind of face or your content shows up for that problem that they're trying to solve. So I have a podcast. I interview digital marketing experts, and I interview pretty popular people. Pat Flynn, John Lee Dumas, the creator of Lead Pages, Clay Collins, the creator of Unbounce, Ollie Gardner. And when I interview those people, it improves my credibility and my influence because I'm interviewing other people too. And after a period of time, it shows that, oh, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about, and he's not charging these ridiculous agency prices, so I might be a great fit for their project. Also, making sure that your website either has case studies and shows specific results, testimonials. After you finish a project, make sure that you can get testimonials, even if it's just a LinkedIn endorsement. A lot of times, if I worked with a previous client, I'll be like, oh, can you go onto LinkedIn and just leave me an endorsement there? The local SEO, local marketing person, make sure you have a local business account on your on Google, and in there you can have Google reviews. I have like 13 reviews.
So you would recommend that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Local, Google Business or Google Local, whatever it's called.
Yep, I highly recommend it. And it could be just the people who you give advice to. It could be people in your mastermind group. You're helping each other out. Oh, I helped you out. Do you mind giving me a testimonial on Google reviews? Because that really helps with your ranking. Just like a business for Yelp. Things like that.
Side question then. Do you have an office? Or do you just work straight? Okay, so how do you do that for the Google local search? Where do you put that little red flag that says, "Here's my business"?
House.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
What are your? I have a PO box because
you can use PO box.
Probably not a terrible thing, but I didn't want to just share my address publicly. I mean, my wife might be.
I don't have kids yet, so I'm not as worried about it. That's for sure. But I mean, you could use your PO box, but I haven't been really that concerned about it. I told my wife about it, and she's like, do you think it's a big deal? I'm like, no, I don't think it's really a big deal. But if you want to, go have a PO box, that would totally work. Maybe you're at a co-working space, you can put that address. You can always change the address later if you want to. But I think having those reviews are really the important thing. Yeah, because you want them to show up. Because the more reviews you have, the more you show up in search. The more endorsements that you get, the more you show up in LinkedIn, and then you can take them off of there and put them on your website.
That's very true. Do you think if I guess it's still if Google Plus goes away, Do you think these Google local searches and those kinds of things will still have the impact if the Google Plus social network, whatever, ends up leaving us?
Absolutely. Whole Foods in LA has probably 300 reviews on it on Google Local. There's no way if Google Plus goes away that those reviews are going away. It would just be ridiculous.
Okay.
That's how they make their money. You can buy ads within Google Local and you can kind of promote your own little stars. So I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, I get I see a bunch of people on Facebook, by the way, they get the same stupid phone calls that I do. It's like, hey, your Google local business search listing hasn't been blah, blah, blah. And it's just spam stuff. I mean, I could go in and do it myself. But
yeah.
So how do you, if someone says, like, one of my tactics is seeing businesses that are already working in my area. How do you overcome some of those objections? Like, oh, I already have a website guy, or I already have a marketing guy. Do you just move on because they either have somebody or they don't get it? Because I've got a guy in one of my mastermind groups. He's trying to convince this group to hire him for a website, and they don't understand. They just don't get it. My philosophy is pretty much, if you don't have a website, you don't have a business. It's 2015, right? What are your thoughts? Try to convince, or just, that's cool, I'm out, I'm going to go and spend my time elsewhere?
Well, I mean, if it's worth it, if you think the project is going to be worthwhile, do whatever you can to kind of get the business. I mean, that's part of the hustle. People sometimes like that, but you kind of have to feel it out if it's really worth the effort for you. But majority of everybody that I work with already has a website, and we either do advising for them, we help make their website better, we make it have more sales, we make it convert better, or we work with their existing website designers. Actually, one of my value propositions is that I really work well with teams. I am the complement to their team. Like, they have a marketing department, they have a website designer, they have a technical team, but they just don't have anybody to really connect the dots. And I kind of come in sometimes as like the bad guy and say, oh, you got to change this and that. And they intentionally hire me for that. And it's the complete opposite. Maybe my team is the complete website design team. We actually prefer if they actually have a design team. That way, we can give them just direction. We don't have to do a lot of the work.
That's a great way to turn a obstacle into an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know what you mean. We got a question from Randy who asks, he wants to, well, let me give you the background first. He and his wife want to start a site selling 30 to 45 different SKUs of small items. They're cosmetic products. He wants to grow organically, which I'm always a fan of. I think he and I talked. I think they're already doing offline business. Like, they'll go and do swipe a credit card thing in the phone or whatever. I think that's what he told me. But so they're already doing business. They want to move more of that online. What's a cost-effective way to start doing e-commerce, but also combine that with some drop shipping, some third-party logistics? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, if they're selling them already and they have some demand for it, that's really amazing, because that's the hardest part. Putting them online is super easy. Getting them, to a fulfillment center and getting drop shipped, that's just a little bit of expense. And it's not even that expensive anymore. So I'm a huge fan of Shopify. Shopify is a really amazing. There's so much opportunity out there. All right, good. So he's selling them in the spa. So there you go. So if people are already buying them already, that shows that there's interest in them. So I would concentrate on selling what is already being sold. So you want to always work with what's already working. So Shopify is like a hosted e-commerce solution, and there's a lot of competitors to that. There's BigCommerce, Volusion. You can even use WordPress, but I don't know if I'd recommend it for that many SKUs. I'd only recommend WooCommerce if you only have a limited amount of SKUs, like 1 or 2 or 3. Okay. But if you have 30 or 40, I would recommend Shopify or BigCommerce for sure. And I would get your products onto Amazon. Absolutely. You want to use your products and cross-channel them. You can even sell them on eBay. And you can use Shopify to manage all of that inventory. you can actually add all these apps or add these plugins, and you can get them onto Amazon. Amazon is the place to be if you're selling anything, because they have zillions of credit cards.
Is that fulfillment by Amazon, or is that you have a store listing on Amazon? I don't have a whole lot of experience in that.
Manufacturer agreements, they can't place them on Amazon. Well, then I would sell them on your own website. So create like a Shopify store and then put them on your own store and then promote them that way. Maybe there's a way for you to resell them in a different name on Amazon, or just recreate them in a different way. Maybe you have to order them in China or whatever it is. But there's a ton of podcasts out there related to Amazon. One of them being The Amazing Seller. Great podcast, a great Facebook community. You can go in there and just ask them a million different questions. All of these guys are just killing it on Amazon. They don't even have an idea yet. If you're already selling them already and there's a demand for that, it can continue to grow. He said he's selling things in the spa. I was actually talking to someone the other day, and they were selling home spa things that like aromatherapy that attaches to your shower. It's called like SO shower or something that you can check it out. So all they did was take, an idea and turn it into a completely different product. And then they started just, killing it on Amazon. They got picked up by like the USA, one of the morning shows and things like that. And it just completely blew up. So a lot of times e-commerce, it comes down to just a really unique product that meets a demand.
So it's looking at those, Randy, maybe. And by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, we have an interactive chat. It's third party, by the way. We have a chat that's going so members can ask questions. He's talking about third party logistics. Do you have a fulfillment that any of your clients have used? You mentioned drop shipping or something like that. Any logistics companies that you have had experience with?
I don't. I don't really handle that portion of the accounts, but I would just, ask around. I would add yourself to a lot of those Facebook groups, and I'm sure you can get a lot of recommendations. A lot of people are doing all that stuff for really cheap these days.
And looking at some of these things, Randy, as potential distribution channels, in platform, Michael Hyatt's book, he talks about using social media as your embassies that all are tied back to your home base, which is your website, which for me, ElloryWells.com or AlexDesigns.com, for example. And just using these distribution channels to sell your products, because I sell my podcast book on my site. I keep 97%, 3% goes to PayPal. I also sell it on Amazon and I get 70%, but Amazon's it got the traffic and so I don't have to deal with that. But I was looking for I'm looking for digital cameras. I'm looking at getting a Canon 70D here, maybe soon if I can convince Ashley to let me do it. And there on eBay, there's a Canon store. I think on eBay there's all these other and it's just distribution channels that you don't have to have everybody on your site. You may not make 97%, but you don't also have to get all of the traffic and handle some of the logistics. So that might be an option for you, Randy.
Yeah, and also, right now we're in the middle of the year. You really want to start getting that traction right now, have that website kind of set up because you want to capitalize on the upcoming holiday season.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times it's like cutting your costs just to where, you get just a little bit of margin during Black Friday. So you can get an influx of a bunch of customers and they can be around for a long time. You really want to leverage your lifetime value after that, but you get as many customers as you possibly can in through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, pre-holiday stuff, New Year's, Valentine's Day. You can give away, sell Valentine's Day spa stuff. Absolutely. So the holiday season goes all the way from Halloween through Valentine's Day. And that should be the core time that you're selling everything online. And then you take the summer and you spend your time really, redeveloping and re-optimizing your e-commerce site.
Yeah, and I definitely want us to touch on the optimizing and the re-optimizing, all those tweaks and everything. One thing else that Randy had mentioned, and you answered part of this question with Shopify and all that. Magento, I'm not familiar with that, but is that something that you would look at as a platform?
No. If you have money to spend, maybe. If you needed like some custom e-commerce developed, Magento is probably the solution for you. Magento is like the WordPress of e-commerce. It's open source, so you can kind of do whatever you want with it. I believe eBay owns it right now, and they're actually selling it to another private company. But Magento is a very powerful system. And like, let's say you don't want the shopping cart to do it like a normal shopping cart. You can use Magento to kind of tweak that and make it do different things.
Okay.
But you need a developer to do it. It's all PHP.
Yeah, I am no web guru, but that's one of those. There's a few platforms that I've only just kind of heard of. I landed on WordPress shortly after I started, which before I completely move on, you mentioned like WooCommerce and WordPress. You wouldn't necessarily suggest them for 30 to 45 SKUs. Is that a server-based limitation? Is it software? What's the thought there?
Well, just like when you're creating a WordPress blog and you want to create a theme, you know how you have to have a kind of a developer, you have to know a little bit of HTML, you have to know a bit of a theme development. If you want your WooCommerce site to do exactly what you want it to do, it's kind of hard. You need a developer, you kind of have to design a certain theme for the WooCommerce experience. And recently, WordPress Automatic just bought WooCommerce. So I think WooCommerce is going to be there in a year, but right now, I don't think it's worth it. Shopify is so inexpensive. BigCommerce is really inexpensive. Volusion as well. But Shopify really is owning the market right now, and it's just really so easy. I mean, I've never used anything as easy as Shopify. If you need help, you can go to heycarson.com and you can buy. You can have them do a certain amount of updates for like whatever it is, $75 a month. And they can help you with some additional stuff. If you're interested in Shopify, go onto Facebook and join all the Shopify groups and just ask a bunch of questions. It really is exploding right now with e-commerce.
That is a great idea for anybody listening or the people watching or watching the replay. But my last question there is, it's not necessarily a WordPress limitation. It's more of a WooCommerce challenge. Okay. Because I've seen WordPress scale huge as far as like technical ability, and as long as you have a server powerful enough to power it, which if you are getting that much traffic, you should be able to pay the $25 or $30 or $50 or $100 a month to scale the server. Let's get into the optimization and some of those things as well, because I love your story, Alex, how you built it slow with the referrals. And before I forget, most of the experts, guys, that we have on these calls, their businesses are growing because of referrals. It's, hey, so-and-so did a great job, check them out. Or it's making those connections. And you're very welcome, Randy. We're not talking about, we are sort of talking about driving traffic through paid traffic, Facebook ads, and some of those kinds of things. But a lot of this business, when we're starting out, is coming out by doing just a bang-up job, just making one satisfied customer after another, and saying, who else can I help? Who else is going through something similar or that I can work with? So keep that in mind as you are starting your business or wanting to take it to the next level. Randy, I know you mentioned you want to go from $1,500 a month to $3,000 or $4,000 over the next 6 months or something. Leaving customers just thank you for this great service is what I have heard so many times of how entrepreneurs, no Silicon Valley startup money, these guys building it like Alex did, like I'm doing. It's the referral. So the optimization part, before we go into A/B testing, and I want you, and I'll try to remember to regurgitate the story you told me after I had you on the podcast the first time. But let's talk about bounce rates. Whenever I changed my domain to Ellory Wells, my bounce rate went from like 75% down to about 12. If Google Analytics is to be trusted, how can we reduce bounce rates? What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah. So it comes down to the user experience, as we mentioned. So you need to put yourself in the customer's shoes And as you arrive at your web page, if you can't figure out what to do, then your customer or visitors can't figure it out either.
And they're probably not going to spend the time to figure it out.
Yeah. You really want to not make people think. There's a famous book out there called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. The more options that you have, the more friction it creates, and it creates a cognitive load in someone's brain as soon as they arrive at your webpage, and they only have 1 second to get that first impression. So reducing bounce rate comes down to a great user experience. The page doesn't need to be, you want to have the most important stuff above the fold in the active window, but the page can be long. People are going to do two things on the website. They're either going to click, scroll, or leave. So you want them to do some of that. You want them to scroll down. You want to have a nice footer that gets people to other areas of your website. You want to have an intentional header that has navigation of your best performing items. In my website now, I have a link in my header that says most popular posts. And I can watch people go through my website, and I know that they click on that link right there, and they go to the most popular posts. I'm giving people more of what's popular. So that's what you kind of have to do. You want to figure out what's working on your website and then kind of tailor that to their experience so they continue to go down the path. You can also do things like what Lead Pages does, the content upgrades. If they arrive at a certain blog post, you can maybe have some free downloads for them to opt in for an email and go to a next page. So providing more value based on whatever experience that they're in.
And those content upgrades are a great way to segment a list as well. If people are podcasters and then they also click on or they opt in for the gear and the equipment, that's not only a warmer lead if you were to teach podcasting, but you also know that they're not only interested in being a better podcaster, but they're also in the techie type or the DIY type or some of those other things.
Yep.
Something that I have also done, and I'll move on, is when InRelate went away. InRelate used to be a WordPress plugin that would put related posts down at the bottom of a blog posts, maybe even some pages. When I started doing in-content links inside the blog posts, that also helped. It didn't reduce my bounce rate because it was already pretty low, but it increased page views.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's another good way. I don't think we need to talk about CreateSpace. You said that was a good way to do. Did it cost you anything to put your book on CreateSpace, by the way?
$10. You have to buy a number, and that's basically it. It's really not much more than that.
Okay.
They take a percentage of every book, so they make money off on that anyway. You actually have to pay for a review. You have to pay for a proof of your book, and that's all you have to basically pay for.
Okay, so we're $10 or $20 or something.
Yeah, not much at all.
Okay, you mentioned before that you're always in the high. When you're slow, you put more salesy type messaging in your hire me. When you're slow, when you're not, or when you have plenty of business, it may be something else. How often are you tweaking that? Do you see your homepage and your website as a living thing, or as something that my homepage is good, I don't have to touch it for another quarter, another 6 months?
No, absolutely. You should always be iterating. Like, you can actually build up a history of things that have worked for you in the past and that haven't worked. So you want to try to figure out what has worked for you in the past and try to do more of that. So the worst thing you can do is nothing. Like, you want to optimize your website. You want to tweak it so it meets the need of whatever your objectives are. If you have a podcast, you want people to subscribe to your podcast. So make sure it's easy to find the subscribe in iTunes or Stitcher podcast buttons. Pretty obvious stuff. But how many podcast websites do you go to and you can't figure out how to subscribe to their podcast? They're making too many assumptions that they know what the customer has to do. And even the most internet savvy people, people are at more like a C level. It's not that they're not smart. You're just not making it obvious enough because people don't want to spend that much time. They want to get their information and they want to move on with their day. So you want to make sure that you're always tweaking based on whatever your objective is. If you want to gather more leads, figure out your ideal customer and then create content specifically for them. If you, for me, if I'm too busy, I will remove the free consultation from my header. Right now you can't get a free consultation from me. But if I'm not busy, I will offer a free consultation. And I'll do it for free initially, but then after that, after the first call, I'll have them hire me on Clarity, and I'll bill them for it. And so you need to figure out different ways to kind of meet your needs at the different times. And also, just thinking about your website, your homepage is really important, but you want to determine those 4 or 5 other top traffic pages that are also receiving, decent amount of traffic. And you can go into Google Analytics and figure all this stuff out. There's a report, I believe it's under behavior, site content, and then landing pages. And you want to figure out what your top landing pages are. That's really where you figure out your quick wins, your most opportunity to optimize. Don't spend time on landing pages or random pages that aren't receiving any traffic. It's a complete waste of time. Focus on where your biggest opportunity is, and then start to optimize those pages. You can even use different tools to figure out what people are doing on those pages. The main tool that we're using right now is called Hotjar, HOTJAR.com, and it will do mouse tracking and heat maps, so you can figure out exactly what people are doing on those individual pages. And that, if you have a lead magnet on, one of those pages and people aren't clicking on it, obviously you need to change the offer.
It's not compelling enough. Yeah.
It's not compelling enough. There's not enough value. It's not obvious that it's free. Make sure the button says free download. Make it very, very obvious. It's called direct marketing for a reason. Make sure that the page that you're on, it's obvious what they need to do next and what the main objective is. So every page should have its own goal. Define the goal of the page, and then optimize your pages based on that.
Yeah, when you're talking about assumptions, I was trying to scroll through the email. I wasn't ignoring what you were saying. So I was trying to scroll through my phone. I think I archived it. But one of the members, or someone who was thinking about becoming a member, she asked me, or she suggested that I put basically a tutorial of how to leave a review in iTunes, and I don't have that because I don't use iTunes except to do my ID3 tags and some of those other things. But when you're talking about making assumptions, I assume that everybody knows how to go into iTunes and click. And it honestly is probably not even easy for me to do it. I probably could describe it off the top of my head how to leave a rating and review. So we do make those assumptions, and it probably is hurting your business some, figuring out those easy things to streamline it. And you gave me the idea of a tutorial to create inside the membership site of how to find your top 5 pages. And what you had said is the gist of it. And you can go in and see which pages get the most views, because you don't want to, your time is short, right? You don't want to spend your time optimizing a page that nobody looks at.
Yeah, we call that the quick win process. So it's basically the first thing we do on every single project that we go on. We go into Google Analytics, we figure out the top traffic pages. That's our where. That's where we're going to start optimizing. Then we want to figure out what is actually going on those pages. That's my dog. Hey, Bubba. He's dreaming.
He's sleeping right now?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Bowie. There you go. All right, cool. So you figure out where people are going on your website, and then you want to figure out what they're doing. And we use Hotjar for that, the heat maps and the mouse tracking. You want to watch people go through your website as much as you possibly can. That's why people pay a lot of money for this, because it takes a lot of time. But there's one level further than that. You want to figure out the why people are converting and why not. And you do that through qualitative insight, understanding exactly, what's actually going on in their mind. So how do you figure that out? If someone's on your web page for a certain amount of time, you can pop open a survey and ask them, what's stopping you from taking this free offer? Or if they actually do convert and they go to take your lead, you can show another survey and say, where'd you come from? Or how'd you find us? And what caused you to, what was the reason you took this free offer today? So you want to find out why they're converting and why not. And you can do also that with Hotjar.
So how do you do that without being pushy? Yeah. How do you do it? How do you get that information without feeling like you are asking too many questions or being pushy online?
It's pretty common these days. You go to a page, there's a little thing that pops up and says, what is this page missing? So majority of people aren't going to fill it out, but the people who, are missing something or are, educated enough to input that information, they're going to give you some nuggets of gold right there. So you want to try to survey your audience as much as you possibly can. You can even set it up if they are moving their mouse to the back button, you can pop open that survey and ask them, what's stopping you from leaving right now?
Yeah, that's the exit, not exit redirect, but exit notification. Because some of those things, those reasons why people don't buy, or all of the declined invites and all those things, those are some of the best learning examples out there. One of my mastermind clients, she got I guess you call it a rejection letter, and the information that was contained in that email back to her was like, holy crap, those notes are amazing. And if you could do that same thing on a website,
you can automate the whole entire process. You can even, in the book, there's basically this whole process that we go through.
And in your book, the Small Business Big.
The other portion of that is to use SurveyMonkey. So you can automate the process of collecting surveys. If you sign up for SurveyMonkey, the first 100 responses that you get are free. So there's no reason not to send out a survey. You get 100 responses. That's what the goal is. So you can ask your Facebook audience to fill out the survey. You've sent out surveys. You've done this plenty of times. Mm-hmm. You send it out to your email list, asking them to fill out a survey. You, in the signature of your autoresponder, have 1 minute, take our survey. So you can automate the process. You don't have to, spend a lot of time on this. Put this into your system, into your funnel, so you can automate the process of collecting that insight.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And yes, I do send surveys. That's how I learned that. I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, but a big chunk of my audience is readers. Another big chunk are podcast listeners.
Good point.
But the amount of overlap is not huge. So you've got listeners over here, you've got the readers over there, and if I can duplicate content, or
good point.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Repurpose it, or
repurpose. There you go. Repurposing content is a great thing to do. Now, here's where we'll start to wind down, Alex. And this is what you told me after we got off the official call when you were on my show. Let's see, Alex, which was episode 27. So, man, that was a long time ago, I feel like. You told me to ask selfish questions. If I have the same question, other people, or if I have the question, other people will probably have the same thing. And I did that with Tracy Goodwin last week. She talks about speaking, and I asked her questions for my upcoming podcast movement talk, and it went really well. So I'm going to take your advice and give it right back to you. So what are some things that we can avoid specifically for things that on landing pages or in general that we need to avoid? You can use my site if you want to, you don't have to, but what are some things that we can apply, some tools that we can start using that you recommend to your clients, some things that we can put into action when we're done listening to this, or maybe the people who are on while they are watching this? Yeah,
it's hard to say what to avoid. It's going to depend differently for different sites. But what I can tell you that has worked for me in the past, proven stuff that has worked time and time again. A lot of it comes down to, as I said, putting yourself in the customer's shoes. So I would, challenge you to take out your phone and look at your website on your cell phone. If you don't have like a clear call to action to opt into an email, like above the fold on your homepage, on your category pages, on your blog posts, then you're missing opportunity to collect emails. Like, people don't scroll to the very, very, very bottom of your page where the sidebar puts, into a responsive site, it puts at the very, very bottom. Mm-hmm. I would challenge you to, either hire a developer, or for lack of better words, hack your theme to show a button above the fold to generate more emails. If you do that and you have a button right there, it says free download and it has a great offer, a picture of a book, you're going to double your email collection right away from mobile. Now, also in the mobile experience, if you want to get people to call you, make sure you tell people that. You should have a clear phone number and make sure that they can click on the phone number and they can actually call you.
How do we do that? I know
it's very easy. Very easy. Just do a search for TEL:.
Okay.
It's like creating a link, but it's creating a link for a phone number. It's super easy to do. It's just like creating an href, but it's called a tel reference or whatever it's called. But it's called TEL:. So that will make your phone number clickable.
And we're not talking about Tokyo Electron Limited, by the way.
No, I believe it's TEL:. I believe that's what, or it's Rel Tel, something like that. But anyway, just do a Google search for how to make your phone number clickable.
Yeah. Do a REL space TEL. REL, for those people who don't know, is a relationship HTML tag. I'm sure it applies to this too. And then, I got my first link was proper way to do mail to and TEL links in HTML5, and it's REL space T.
It sounds a lot more complicated than it is. It's really super basic.
Easy.
Yeah, and then you may even want to take it a step further and have a button right there that says click to call. Click to call for free consultation. Click to call to order spa supplies. Click to call
supplies.
Spa supplies.
There's a spy museum in DC that I was like, spies. I can give me Anyway, spa supplies. There you go, Randy. Do the REL space TEL, and it's just a little bit.
But you want to get people to call you, and even if you don't have a huge customer service department, trust me. Look at my website, alexdesigns.com. I have my phone number at the top of my website. Nobody ever calls me. Maybe once a month, and it's all goes to Google Voice. So if you don't have anybody to answer your phone, you can basically just automate it. So, that way you can figure out if you actually do need customer service or not. Maybe you need your secretary or your VA,
That's true.
So you can figure it out along the way because adding a phone number adds credibility. Now, anywhere that you sell something, you also want to make sure that you have your phone number. So, like, let's say we do put together that spa supplies website and you have your e-commerce site out there. On the add to cart button, it could say right underneath the add to cart button, call to order, and then put your phone number right underneath there. So anytime that you offer something, maybe it's expensive or you want to intentionally get people to call, make sure that it's there in the actual page. Now, you've probably been to a website before and you've scrolled down the page and the top header bar, it kind of stays sticky up there. You've seen that before. That's pretty new in a lot of websites out there. The top header stays sticky. I'm not talking about the hello bar. I like a hello bar, but I'm talking about the entire header.
The actual menu.
The actual menu. That has proven to really help your website navigate. Now, take it a step further. Put a button in that sticky nav bar that says free download or free consultation or order now, whatever it is. So that way, it doesn't matter wherever they scroll on the page, there's always a call to action in the active window. And you can make that sticky bar also stay there within the mobile experience.
That's a great idea too.
Yeah, that's been proven to work time and time again. Other things that have worked in the past, we're going to talk about blogging, definitely having a good offer, obviously a good lead magnet, but making sure that you tell people that it's free. Not only in the headline, but showing the button that says a free download. And then, because people see the word free, but they only read it once or twice. So you can actually put it in a section 2 or 3 times, and people are going to only really read it once. It's kind of a direct marketing trick, but people will tend to think that all of your services are free. Oh, wow, this is free. all of his services free. So you're just kind of creating that mindset for him. You're not trying to do a bait and switch. You're just trying to get that mindset that you offer a bunch of free content out there.
What are some of the most popular pages that you see time and time again across your clients' sites that if we were building a new site, maybe we should start by creating those?
It's the pages that you don't think that are the most important. In e-commerce, it comes down to the questions that people have and they have reservations about ordering from you. Return policy, shipping policy, FAQs, money back guarantee. Those pages are so important because people want to know how long you've been in business, how fast does it ship, what if I have a problem with it and I want to return it. So you want to be able to answer all of those questions before they actually add something to the cart. That way they don't have to call you or they have any reservations about ordering from you. And the same thing with the About page. People like to buy things from people that they like, know, and trust. And people like to know your story. Like, what have you been through and the reason why you're selling this spa supplies. So they will go to your About page and they will particularly look at your story. If they kind of relate to you and see that you're a real person, they're more likely to know and trust you.
Yeah, seeing why you got into this, why you're passionate about conversion optimization, why you're passionate, Randy, and your wife, about spas and the type of cosmetics and medicine that you're wanting to do, why you're passionate about helping people lose weight. Mm-hmm. Those are all things that seem somewhat maybe trivial at first, but they all tell the story of how you got to where you are. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're curious about some of the pages and how to create them, I talk about that in my 30-day blog transformation course, ellorywells.com/30 days. We start a new one every month and talks about these 5 pages that every website needs. And it's exactly like what you're talking about. The About page, I just implemented an FAQ page and a Start Here page. The content, there's a lot of overlap. But I, in my own experience, anytime there's an FAQ page, I've got to click it. I've got to know, well, what are other people asking this person?
Yeah.
And they're a great way to tee up questions that you want to answer, how you want to answer them.
Yeah, and especially if you're selling products, spa stuff. Okay, is it going to affect my skin? Make sure that you answer all those questions because it's things that people worry about. Is it made in some weird place that could potentially have some chemicals in it or something that go wrong? Is it organic? Is it natural? What happens if things go wrong? So making sure that you can address all the questions that they have. It's really a big deal that a lot of people forget about.
And I've always found them a great way to inject your personality into stuff. My FAQ page is very laid back. Like, who is this Ellory guy and what's he talking about? And it's just exactly off the cuff how I would answer it if you asked me in person. And it's I prefer businesses and companies that have personality, even if it's quirky. Like MailChimp is very quirky, and
that does well. I mean, like Warby Parker, people love, they buy the glasses from them because they have great customer service, but they like the story. Tom's shoes, people don't buy Tom's shoes because there are some funky hipster shoes. They buy it because of the story. They give a pair of shoes to charity or whatever it is. That's really important these days. People want to stories. Stories really will make the difference in how you are different from the competition.
Well, a couple final questions. Long form sales page versus short sales page.
It really does depend. It kind of, the higher price that your product is, the longer the page should be.
Okay. And cold traffic to a short or too long, or is it still based on price? If it's like through Facebook ads, Google AdWords, something like that, do we send those click-throughs to the long page or short page?
Well, it works really differently because if someone knows who you are then you're more likely going to give them a long page, because that way you can continue to give them more information. If you ever gone down like Amy Porterfield's funnel, she does it really, really well. The first time that you get to her funnel, it's an email opt-in. Sign up for my free Facebook lead magnet, whatever it is. It's not long at all. It's email opt-in. You get this for free. But if you go onto her webinar, and you're on her webinar, and then she gives you the link for her Profit Lab course, you go to the next page, and it's a super long page.
So why is that? I would think it'd be almost the opposite of that, like exactly the opposite. If no one knows me, I want to give them a bunch of information about why I'm cool and trustworthy. So why does that work? Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of times in marketing, what you think is going to work, it's usually kind of like the opposite. So
especially for me.
don't be surprised if things you don't think are going to work are actually going to work, and vice versa. And a lot of times ugly wins. So if you have a beautiful site, sometimes it doesn't convert as well as something that's a little bit more busy or ugly or whatever it is. That classic direct marketing or information marketing type of world. But people, especially when you're selling something after a webinar, they want a lot of information. You want to, as you scroll down the page, you are telling the story. That hierarchy of the page, you're really breaking down like a pyramid of information for them. Introducing the offer, introducing what it's about, listing out all the information of the course details, and then at the very bottom having like a guarantee, and then into a clear, like a scarcity element of the countdown symbols, the countdown clock. So the price is going away or it's going up or whatever it is.
Your number one list building tip. Let's go. Let's wrap that or finish up with that. Number one list building tip. And you can't do like this. Let's get like the advanced, the best advice, not the pop-ups and all this. Number one list.
Yeah, you got to do all that stuff, but it really comes down to having something really, really unique, like something that's different than anyone else. And you get to the page and be like, wow, I really need that thing. And for me, I do give away a lot of PDFs. I have some free courses, but my best thing that I give away is 5 free landing pages. And it's like, people come to my page, they're like, why are you giving away these landing pages? You can charge for them. I'm like, I'd rather give them away to 200 people than charge one person $200 for them. Because I can't even sell landing pages for as much as I used to anymore. So they come to my pages. You can even go to, if you want to grab them yourself, you go to createlandingpages.com. It's going to redirect you to a lead pages website, and it has an amazing conversion rate. 3 out of the 4 people who arrive at that page, they opt in for it every single time. So you have to really figure out something of really unique value that's going to really target the people who are visiting your website. And make sure you ask them in your surveys. You can ask people what they want and then create content specifically for them.
Man, Alex, you're giving me so many more questions that I want to ask, but I want to respect your time. How can people connect with you and find you after listening, or they have watched the replay inside the membership site under I think it's the Experts Call tab? How can people connect with you, ask you questions, get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty much, everybody knows me on the web as my Twitter handle, @AlexDesign. So I would love to connect with you on Twitter. I'm using Periscope now. You can follow me on Periscope as Alex Designs, on Instagram as Alex Designs, on Facebook. I'm pretty much usually always everywhere. But I really do love meeting other like-minded entrepreneurs. I love hanging out and go to conferences and just really meeting great people, because I think we're all on the same journey together, and that's kind of what like podcasts are all about. We all are on the same journey together, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about. There's no reason why you need to go on this path alone. You can use the internet as a way to build those relationships, because if I know that someone in his mastermind group could provide extreme value to somebody, I would refer that person in a second. We can't always handle all the work that we get. So if you can build a network of a team or subcontractors or referrals or whatever it is, it's really going to be able to make a difference in your business too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Alex. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, and I will see you in just 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Does your hand hurt from writing? I hope it does, because I know this was a long episode. It was actually a little bit longer, but we edited some of the stuff that's member exclusive content. So make sure you enroll. You can get the full interview, the video, everything for just $1. Go to members.ellorywells.com/30 for 1. That's 30 days of access for just $1. Cancel anytime. But you can also go to the show notes and get the public information. I'll throw another link at you, empoweredpodcast.com/96. That's pretty easy, just /96, and you will get all of the show notes for the publicly released version of this. And Alex mentioned something that I need to follow up with you on. If you are interested in getting the audiobook that he mentioned, you have to go to empoweredpodcast.com/96. And there is a link. I'm going to go there now just to make sure I know exactly where it is. There's a link at the bottom of the What You Will Learn section. In this episode, you will learn about, and there's a bunch of bullets and links to all of the resources and everything like that. And down at the very bottom, there's a link to get Alex's free audiobook. Click that, and it will open up a new email to send to me. You can send me that email and tell me your top takeaway from this episode. I want to know where you found the most value. If you can narrow it down to one thing, if you want to go into a little bit more detail, that's okay too. But click on that link. It'll send me an email, and I want you to tell me your top takeaway from this episode, and I will send you the instructions on how to get Alex's audiobook for free. And there at the very end, we talked about meeting a podcast movement and going to conferences and those kinds of things. And I want to encourage you to go to at least one conference a year for whatever your niche is, whatever your business is, so that you not only will get the personal development aspects of that, but you'll be able to connect with people who share the same vision as you, who have the same, or similar goals as you do, so that you can go and meet people and realize, hey, I'm not alone. I'm doing this with other people, and there's real people out there that are wanting to do this, and I can connect with them. So I encourage you to go to conferences, and I'm going to put out this as well, because I'm going to keep a running list of applications. If you are interested in joining my private group Mastermind, this is not the membership site, but Mastermind members do get completely free included access to the membership site. Go to ellorywells.com/mastermind apply. If you're in front of a computer, you can go there. If you are driving or riding a bike or something like that, please don't try to do this on your phone. I'm not responsible for any accidents that may cause. But if you go to /mastermind apply, you can submit an application, and when spots do become available, I will reach out to you and see if the time is right for you in your journey to join my next mastermind group. The feedback is amazing. I've only had a couple people who dropped out, and they decided that just they were going to pull back from online things in general. But the overall overwhelming feedback has been amazing, and I encourage you to just keep an application open with me so that I can pull you in when the next spot's open. I've got a group starting here in September, and I think it's about full. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Even if it's not with me, find a group of people that you can connect with on a regular basis and share your successes and your struggles with. Tell them what you're challenged by, and connect regularly with people who will help you along your journey and help you get where you want to go. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Empowered Podcast, where my goal with this show is to help you transition from where you have to be to where you want to be in life by providing you with the tools, the support, encouragement, and the accountability to help you make it happen. I'm your host, Ellory Wells. We'll see you next week.